Hey everyone, it's Silva, and a few weeks back I made a video about solo hiking, and that video focused on day hikes and how I started solo day hiking. And in that video I said that I would be doing a follow-up video on how I transitioned from solo hiking into solo backpacking. And you get it! Today's video is all about how I got started on solo backpacking, so stay tuned and we'll go over it. So the biggest reason I wanted to figure out how to go solo backpacking was because I had decided that I wanted to thru hike the Appalachian Trail. And I know that there are lots of people out there that thru hiked the Appalachian Trail and had never spent a night outdoors. You know, you've seen the videos, they've never backpacked, they started out at Amicalola Falls and they make it to Katahdin just fine. But I didn't want that to be me. I'm a little bit more of a planner than that. I don't plan a lot, but a little bit more than that. So I just wanted to have had some solo experiences backpacking before I started hiking the Appalachian Trail. So I started doing all the research, I started getting my gear ready, and I started planning my first overnight trip. So I won't get into all the gear right now. I'll do a follow-up video at some point on my current gear that I use for overnight trips, but I will link my big 3 in the corner in case you're interested in that. I did get some safety things. I do have a neck knife that I carry with me. I did buy my Garmin inReach prior to my first night on the trail. My family really wanted me to have that so that they would know that I was safe. My children who live all over the country all thought that I had lost it, I think, and so they wanted to have a way to know that I had made it to camp and that I was okay. So I decided to do my first overnight backpacking trip on my birthday. I was turning 48 and I wanted to celebrate it by hitting a goal of mine, so I decided to hike a portion of the Appalachian Trail and set up camp overnight. So I went up to Rangeley and on Route 4, but I didn't go towards Piazza Rock and Saddleback. I went the other way because I knew it would be sort of flattish. It wouldn't be too difficult of a hike, and one of the things I wanted to do was not do too much of a difficult terrain in case something did happen or I did get nervous and want to hike out the next day. I didn't want to have to hike over a giant mountain to get back to the car. So that was step 1 for me, was making sure that the hike wasn't too difficult so I could easily get back to the car. I did hike about 5 miles in, so it's probably a little more than most people do on their first overnight. Not everybody, but from the research I did, they said just hike 2 or 3 miles in, but I did hike 5 miles and got to the campsite. Got there a little early. It was about 2 or 2:30, I think. So I got everything set up and I did have some time to kill and I wasn't really tired. I was just excited. And so, the nighttime came and it did take me quite a while to sleep, and I didn't sleep well that first night, but not because I was nervous. I was just still so excited that I was really doing it. And so I did learn 3 very important things that day. I learned, 1, that I needed camp shoes. My feet were wet and muddy and I had to spend the entire time at camp in those wet, muddy shoes and socks. And then at night, when I had washed off my feet and put on my nice dry sleep socks, when I had to get up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, I had to put on wet, muddy shoes, go use the bathroom, come back, rewash my feet to put on my nice, clean socks. So I knew right away I needed camp shoes. The second thing I learned was I wanted a fanny pack. It would be much easier to put my phone or whatever I was using to record the trip into the front, into a fanny pack in the front, and maybe a couple snacks so that I didn't have to, keep reaching into the pockets of my pack to try and grab things. And the third thing I learned was I brought way too much food for an overnight trip, and food is heavy. So those were the 3 main things I learned, but overall it was a success. I saw nobody, I wasn't afraid. Let me take that back. I saw one person and her son hiking out when I was a mile from the car getting back to my car, and they were hiking in. But other than that, I spent the night entirely by myself in the woods and it was a great time. I will have included some pictures here. I'll also link the video that I created on that overnight hike. So that was my first one. A few weeks later, I decided I wanted to hit a little bit more tough terrain, so I decided on the Bigelows. When I got to the trailhead, there were so many bugs. It was the beginning of June, so it was black fly season in Maine, and I had some trouble with my pack was too heavy, so I learned I had to figure out a way to lighten my load. As I was trying to adjust stuff, I did dislocate my shoulder, and the pack just really rode wrong on my shoulder. I almost turned around at that point, but I decided was going to keep hiking. I'll link that video in the corner, and you know, if after a little while my shoulders still, I got it back into socket, and if it was still bothering me too much, you know, I would turn around, but hopefully I'd be able to tough it through, and I was able to. So that was great, but again, I knew that I had to lighten my load, and I also knew at that point I really needed a different backpack. It just didn't ride on me the right way because of my shoulder issues. So I hiked up the Firewardens Trail. I will include some pictures of my hike. I was able to hit the East Bigelow Peak. I spent the night at the campsite there. The next morning I got up and I had hiked on the AT. You know, I hit West Bigelow and then kept going, and I hit both the Horn Peaks, north and south. It was just such a great trip. I kept hiking until I hit Horns Pond Trail, I believe it was, and I took that down to meet back up with the Firewardens Trail and then hiked back down to the trailhead. And so that trip gave me even more security. I was only one night still, but I also knew that I had put in some really tough hiking miles. I had also dislocated my shoulder, and I was able to keep going. So I knew that I was, you know, doing well. I was very proud of myself. And so now I thought the next trip I really wanted to do 2 nights. Decided on a 24-mile section of the Appalachian Trail. I headed back out to Rangeley, Route 4, and this time it was a Friday night, and I hiked a few miles into Piazza Rock Lean-To. I'll include some pictures here, and I'll also link the videos in the corner because I think I may have done that one in 2 parts. And so, you know, it was just a couple miles in. I got to trail right before, to camp right before it was dark. Quietly set up my tent because there were so many tents and people, they were all asleep, and I knew it being the beginning of August there was probably a lot of thru hikers, and I didn't want to wake them. So I got set up, you know, spent the night. The next morning got up, started talking to people, several thru hikers, and I met some great section hikers that day as well, and kept leapfrogging with the section hikers. So we got to chat off and on all day, and that was really neat to meet so many different people. You know, I hiked over Saddleback and the Horn and Saddleback Junior. I was getting really tired by the time I got to Saddleback Junior, but the views from the top really invigorated me, and I was able to keep going, and I got to camp that night and spent the night at Poplar Ridge Lean-To. There were lots of thru hikers there, so we got to sit around the fire and do some chatting. You know, I let them know what I was doing. They told me this was a really tough section, and they'd been hiking, you know, since Amicalola Falls, and so I was encouraged that, you know, that I was really on the right track. I kept hiking, and here's where my lesson came in. So the previous day I'd hiked about 8 miles over 2 4,000-foot mountains, and Saddleback Junior is pretty tall. I can't remember the elevation. I'll put it right here. Maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe I was just tired. I can't remember. When I hit the 8-mile mark the next day and I was at Spalding Mountain campsite, I realized that this is really where I should have called it quits for the day. It was still fairly early. I think it was around maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock, but I knew that I still had another 5.5 miles to go, and I was beat, and I still had a lot of rugged terrain coming up. There's another 4,000-footer that I had to go over, and I was pretty tired, but I had already made plans to meet Matt, and so I decided I'll be fine, I'll continue on. So I kept going, and I was really tired, but it was, you know, I was all by myself, and my Garmin did come in handy once because I had no cell service, and I hadn't seen a white blaze for a long time, and I started wondering, you know, did I get off trail somewhere? I haven't seen anybody, haven't seen a white blaze. I didn't remember seeing another trail, but, you know, hopefully I didn't get off trail, and I'm so tired. So, you know, I looked at my Garmin and realized, nope, I was still on the right trail, so that was really good. And I kept hiking. I did come to Spalding, which is, you know, it is a blue blaze off the trail a little bit, but decided to hike out there anyway so I could, you know, check off another 4,000-footer. But by the time I got to the blue blaze for Sugarloaf, and it was 0.5 miles out and 0.5 miles back, I knew I didn't have time to, or the strength, energy to add that extra mile in. It was starting to get dark, I was getting really tired, and my legs were, I knew my legs had had it. So, and I still had a few miles to go. So I decided to come back for Sugarloaf another time, and I did keep hiking down. And this is another lesson that I learned. Coming down from Sugarloaf, there's a spot that is very steep rock scramble, and I got there and it was the first time I had a little bit of doubt. I kind of panicked a little. I wouldn't say panic, but I looked at that and thought, well, I can't do that. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I can't do it. I need someone's help. I can't do it. And so I knew I was really tired. I sat down, took some deep breaths and said, you can't just sit here either, lady. So I just knew I had to be rational and just look at it logically, and I realized, okay, there is a way down that's a little bit tricky but not too bad. I decided I'd take off my pack and slide it down ahead of me so that I wouldn't have that extra weight and to throw me off, and I was able to get down that section and keep on hiking. And by the time I got back to the car and met Matt, it was dark, but I was so proud of myself that I had hiked this 24-mile section. I had overcome the exhaustion that I was feeling. I had given myself the pep talk, and I knew that I would be able to hike the Appalachian Trail. If I could do that on my own, then I knew that I could hike the Appalachian Trail. So just to recap, I did learn something on each of my backpacking trips that year. Last year, actually, the first one taught me different equipment I needed. The second one, I realized I needed a different pack, and I needed to lose some weight off in my pack. It was too heavy. My third one just gave me that confidence that I could rely on myself even when it became very difficult. I could keep pushing on, and I could talk myself through difficult situations and still push on. And then the joy of feeling that accomplishment after is so worth the effort that you put in to be able to start solo backpacking. So this year, because I wasn't able to do the Appalachian Trail due to coronavirus, I have gone out and done a little bit of backpacking. I have another trip coming up soon where I'll finish the Grafton Notch Loop section, and I am hoping to do a much longer one come September. But now I have that confidence. I'm not nervous ever when I'm out there at night by myself. It's just peaceful and relaxing and exciting. So I hope this video helped some of you. I hope you see how you can just take those baby steps to a short trip and keep building on it, and building that confidence, building that distance that it takes and the time out there so that you can feel confident, secure, and really just the amazing feeling it is when you're able to do those things on your own solo. And I do believe that confidence from solo backpacking and being on the trail by myself really spills into my everyday life. When there's a difficult situation, I can look back and go, oh no, I was able to overcome this. Then I can certainly handle this situation right before me right now. So thanks so much for following along. Thanks so much for listening and watching this video. If you have any questions about my solo backpacking adventures, you can put them down in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them. Like I said, I do really hope this helps some of you and gets you out there to try those solo overnight experiences on your own. Thanks so much for always being supportive and following along on this channel. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you did. And as always, keep hiking, and I'll see you out there.